Welcome to another edition of Saturday Sit Down. This week we catch up with the 25th captain in Hurricanes franchise history. Joining us from Kelowna, it is Giorgio Estephan. I guess first off, how's Kelowna?
A little smoky right now, big time, but I can't complain. So
Yeah, there's nice, not many nicer places to be in the summertime than Kelowna.
fair enough.
How has your summer been, Giorgio? Have you been able to enjoy it?
I've been in Kelowna quite a bit. So like you said, it's hard not to enjoy being here. But obviously everything considered, and with the virus and everything, obviously it's been a little bit skewed. I'm a big traveler, so some of the stuff like that is a little bit harder to do during these times and stuff, but I've had a lot more time to spend with my family and friends and stuff like that. So a lot of positive stuff kind of came out of this little thing.
Take us back to the end of the season in March and everything that happened at the East Coast level. You, of course, playing with the Newfoundland Growlers. We'll get to that experience a little bit later on, but how did it all come to a head for you guys at that level and in that league?
Well, kind of right before this whole thing happened, it's actually in the American League for a little bit, and I kind of just got down with Newfoundland, and I was probably there for no longer than a couple days, and kind of trying to get back accustomed to being in Newfoundland and all that stuff. And we're actually on the road, and kind of got the call that we're going to be traveling to the next city the next day, and that we're probably going to be going home. And obviously, it was a little bit of shock to everyone. Something that we'd never really seen or done before, or ever kind of really heard about. But yeah, the season just stopped right away, and it was definitely a big shock. And having as good of a team as we did down there, and having as good a season as we did, was a little bit hard to kind of just stop it right away, and all the work we had done throughout the year. But obviously, with the circumstances, that everyone's health and safety is first is kind of the big thing. So making sure everyone's friends and family are safe are definitely foremost over, hockey or a job or stuff like that. So I think it was definitely a good decision that everyone made, and I'm glad they made it.
Talk about what you've done since. There was the quarantine, the kind of shutdown. How did you keep busy? How did you keep active? Because I know as a professional hockey player, training is one of the most important things in the off season. So how did you go about kind of keeping your body in shape and your mind in shape as well?
Well, starting with the quarantine, no gyms were open, no rinks are open. There's not really a whole lot you can do. Being in the Maple Leaf system really helped me out with, they provide you with a lot of tools, even kind of starting with this COVID crisis, where they opened up an Instagram account for workouts, or doing a lot of yoga sessions and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things at the beginning you kind of do to keep you active without having a gym facility of weights and all that stuff. But it's been a lot of body weight training, a lot of making sure that dieting is a big thing. So try not to let myself go a little bit, and then things are starting to open up and it's starting to be a little bit easier. But even going on the ice with a limited amount of guys is something that's still going on right now. So it's definitely been a tough task, but making sure that I keep myself in shape as well as I can, kind of coming into the last few months of the summer, and hopefully knowing when the next season will start, and kind of getting from there.
Diet, always important. Limiting the cookies, my friend.
It's hard, obviously, all the time, but I can't even lie to you. I've had quite a few, so.
I want to go back to the WHL Bantam draft. You were a standout in Edmonton, and of course, the fourth overall pick in the 2012 draft by the Lethbridge Hurricanes. Going into the draft experience, what did you know about Lethbridge? Were they on your radar? And when you finally got selected super high, what was the feeling like?
It was definitely an interesting day for me. My family's not huge into hockey or anything like that, so coming into my Bantam year, I wasn't really too sure of what the WHL draft was, and my family wasn't really accustomed to it. Luckily, I had an agent at the time that was really supportive, and explained to me kind of how everything went and how everything was kind of going. I mean, my mom doesn't know a whole lot about hockey. My dad is, kind of grown with the game just as I am, and he's definitely provided a good amount of knowledge kind of coming into the WHL draft. But I mean, we were kind of caught off guard. So coming into Lethbridge, I had no idea what Lethbridge was, what WHL was, kind of all that stuff. So I kind of had to brush up as quickly as I could, and um, obviously it ended up being my home for quite a while. And it was definitely an interesting day. But I mean, my family made me feel really special on that day, and I think it was definitely a good reward for all the hard work.
You look at your tenure with the Lethbridge Hurricanes, and you kind of had the ultimate of lows, and then you were a big part of the pinnacle of the organization turning around. What do you remember from that first year as a 16-year-old? I know the wins weren't there. How does that kind of help you though as a young hockey player in working through that adversity and those trials and tribulations?
Definitely makes me not want to be there ever again. Um, it was definitely a tough time in my career where I was, trying to find my way, and our team was trying to find our way, and things kind of just weren't working at all. And we had a really tough year. And knowing what it takes now to win and to be successful, and in comparison to at the time. I mean, not even that we were a bad team. It's just the fact that we didn't know how to win, and um, coming into being a more developed player and knowing how to play at a successful level is definitely something that I'm definitely more grateful for now. And but yeah, those first couple of years were definitely tough. But I don't take losing very lightly. So yeah, it was definitely tough for sure.
Your second year, of course, all the changes happened at Christmas time. Peter Anholt came in as the general manager, and at that time, the head coach as well. Your second half that year, you took off. You playing on that line with Braden Burke and Tyler Wong. And when you look back now on that second half with Pete at the helm before they hired Brent Kissio, did you have that sense? Did you kind of have a feeling that, okay, we're starting to trend in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, coming into Lethbridge, being young and selected high and stuff, I was always optimistic that I'd be able to help turn the tides of an organization. And I mean, the year before I went there, so when I was 15, I think they were just on the cusp of making playoffs and just didn't make the playoffs, and then having to go downhill a little bit. Obviously, it wasn't easy, but being a part of the change, and even right when Pete kind of took over, it was definitely a big change of just the atmosphere in the room, and how we go about every day and how we play. Definitely changed right away, and me and Pete clicked really well, right from the beginning, and obviously still someone that I keep in contact with now. So knowing what he did for me, and how he kind of developed me into the player that I am today, even his little tenure as coach, and then being a GM for me for a little bit was definitely big, big person in my career for sure.
That year, the summer, I remember it so vividly when Brent Kissio was hired, because there was probably 20 players that came to Lethbridge for the announcement of his hiring, the signing of Jordy Bellerive and Nick Watson, and so on and so forth. Going into that season, there weren't a lot of expectations for the Lethbridge Hurricanes, and you guys came out with a bang and didn't really let up. How much fun for a guy like yourself and Tyler Wong, who had gone through it as well, having gone through those difficult years, to have success from the outset of the season and kind of ride that wave to a division title? How much fun was that first year with Brent at the helm?
And that was probably one of the more fun years of hockey I've ever had in my life. That's one of the years that I've had the most long-lasting friends. The one of the years that it was just exciting through and through. Anytime you win, it's obviously a good time, but to win at the amount that we did, and at the how fun it was to come to the rink every day is things that you'll never forget. I mean, the camaraderie of our team, the discipline of our team, even through all the changes we had in the year and stuff like that, trying to make a push. And obviously we stopped short a little bit at the first round, but It was definitely a fun year, and breaking into the new year with Kiss, and it was definitely a breath of fresh air when it came to starting from where I started at 16 and having 12 wins to, I think we were 47, 48 in that year. So yeah, it was pretty exciting time, and obviously there's still a lot of friends from that team that I still have to this day.
You mentioned earlier you have to learn kind of how to win, and that team did in the regular season, and playoffs such a different animal. And you did run into the Pats, and the Regina Pats, of course, knocked you guys out in the first round. The next year, though, you guys kind of built on that. Didn't have as great a regular season, but of course the playoff run. What did you take from that first round defeat to the Regina Pats in that first year with Brent, and apply to the next year to have another really good regular season and ultimately go on a pretty deep playoff run?
Well, they were definitely a strong playoff team, coming in. We were obviously highly touted, and um, being the first place team, we knew that it wasn't going to be easy, but I don't think we knew how hard it was going to be kind of coming into playoffs. And we were definitely a team built on skill and finesse, and Regina worked us pretty hard. So, as hard as they worked and learning kind of what it takes, it definitely opened my eyes to what being playoff hockey's like, and being more aggressive, being more gritty, more puck battles that that mean more, and making sure that you never lose. So there's definitely a lot of things that came out of that series, and kind of developing as an organization and as a player, that coming into the playoffs is kind of the flip of the switch, of the mindset is what you have to have. So the playoffs are an exciting time, and coming into that year where we were highly touted but didn't kind of really get as far as we wanted to, definitely opened my eyes to the better part of my career now, where I've been through the longer lengths of playoffs, and knowing what it takes to win. So, like in my earlier career, not getting a lot of wins to a lot of wins, and kind of knowing how to lose out in the first round and make it all the way. So I definitely been able to grow as a player throughout those times in Lethbridge, for sure.
2016, 2017, you guys make the playoffs, and all of a sudden you're down 3-1 to the Red Deer Rebels. You get hurt. You had that eye injury. Maybe walk us through that experience, because that was so scary at the start of it, for a couple of days after, and then all of a sudden you came back and you were just beast mode. But talk about that first round, and the emotional, I imagine, epic low of getting hurt that severely to ultimately the probably most epic of highs, coming back to win that series.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't explain it more from low to high. I can remember, I think it might have been game two, where I was just leaning in on the face-off, and there's a loose puck, and just got an errant stick in the eye, and yeah, it hit me right in the middle of the eye, and obviously went down. I couldn't see for a couple days after that, and luckily the medical staff I had in Lethbridge was really behind me, and even at the time when I was in Buffalo was there for me, and it was tough on my mom. She was at the game, and my brother, and not being able to see and stuff like that was pretty scary. But it was definitely a time that I had better learned from, and knowing how well the staff made me feel, and how comfortably they made me feel, kind of sitting and watching the games, knowing that if I rested a lot more, or didn't move, I didn't move off the couch for like 4 or 5 days. I had both my parents there, pretty much catering to me as butlers for 4 to 5 days, because they said if I would have went up a couple stairs, I would have had my retina detached. So yeah, it was definitely a scary time, but knowing what happened every game and watching every game, I couldn't really raise my blood pressure, but yeah, my heart rate went up a little bit every game, and obviously some anger and some excitement and stuff like that. But I was so anxious to get back on the ice that not moving from the couch was worth it than getting up or doing anything little. So coming back into that series, I definitely had a new sense of purpose and a new sense of excitement.
Yeah, you like I said before, I mean, you immediately went into beast mode. Such a tremendous game 5 return. You guys win game 5. You go to Red Deer, win game 6, and then all of a sudden it's game 7. And I think I've watched you play a lot of hockey with the Hurricanes, of course, with Swift Current. That game 7 against Red Deer might have been the best game I've ever seen you play. How much fun was that game? What was the emotion like? Take us back to that game 7 against the Rebels and the atmosphere in the NMAX Center at the end.
Coming into that game I think game 6 was a really big turning point for us, going into their barn and winning, and being able to come back and play in front of our fans for game 7 was an exciting time. I remember I was playing with Wagner and Babenko in that series, and just having the comfortability kind of coming back, knowing that we're down 3-1. We needed to make a push. We needed to show up big. We needed to, we couldn't lose in the first round again. Was definitely a big excitement. And coming to game 7, if I can remember correctly, I think I got a goal on the power play or something like that from the side. And I remember the elation that I had after scoring that goal. Playing with guys like Brendan Minnell on our power play unit, and knowing how good of a power play unit we had. And we were just a great team, and a star-studded team, and even playing with guys like Burks and pure offensive players. It was a good series for me to kind of learn what it was like to be down and come back. But scoring that goal on the power play is a moment that I'll never forget, just for how the crowd reacted, how the excitement we had, as a team. It was definitely one of the crazier game 7s I've ever been a part of, for sure.
You mentioned that goal, and I see it in my head, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening seeing it in their head, and the reaction. It gives me chills thinking about that goal. Of course, I still remember the goal call on it. Just such a moment. You guys win that series in 7, and then it's the Medicine Hat Tigers, and that goes the distance as well. And that game 7, and such a different game 7, because against the Rebels, you're at home, you have the crowd, that atmosphere coming back from 3-1 down, and now you're kind of banged up against the Tigers, and you were able to get it to a 7th game. And talk about that elation when Tyler scored that overtime winning goal shorthanded on the road in Medicine Hat to knock off, probably the biggest rival for the Hurricanes.
Relief would be the biggest word, because I can remember exactly how I felt on the bench after Wong scored that goal. Everyone jumped up and chased Wong on the ice, and I was like, thank God. Because we had some of the guys banged up in that series, and not having I think it was 0 for a little bit in that series, and who were big contributors to our team the entire year. And it was definitely a tough series where they're the one team that you don't want to lose to, playing in Lethbridge, and having to go there for game 7, especially being we're shorthanded at the time. I think it was a delayed game penalty or something like that, and it was just super unlucky. And kind of being like, oh, hopefully they don't score in the power play, hopefully they don't score. And then I honestly didn't even watch. I was just exhausted on the bench. I wasn't even watching the game. And when Warner scored, one of the happier and most relieved moments of my life, for sure.
And then those darn Regina Pats get you again in the conference final. Such an experience. The following year, Tyler, of course, was an overager that year and graduated, and you were named the captain. What did that honor mean to you when you were named the 25th captain in Hurricanes history, as a guy who had started when it wasn't that great to helping the organization transition to the success that we talked about, going to the conference final?
The one thing that I'm probably more proud of out of anything is kind of being able to start from where I started from, and help the organization get to the culture that is there today. I think one of the lasting things that I've ever talked with Kissio is the fact that leave the jersey in a better place, and knowing how I said before, we didn't know how to win when I was 16, and going to the stage now where I even think they're still continuing that path of how dominant of a team they can be with guys that just work hard, and knowing what it's like to play in playoffs, having guys when they were 16 like Cousins play with play with us when, he was just kind of coming into his career and going into those big games where he scored a giant goal for us in Medicine Hat when he was 15 or 16 or whatever that was. So, having guys that, lead a better path is something that I'm more, proud of anything. And, coming into being named the captain was something I was obviously very excited for, knowing that I've been there for 4 years at that time. And, it was a big home for me, and even a place that, I was in the summers. And, Trevor Hart is a guy that, I still keep in contact with today. So, there's a lot of ties that I have with Lethbridge, and it was definitely a time that I'll never forget. And I was definitely very honored to be the captain of that team.
I remember the day you were traded with Stewart and Tanner Nagel, of course, to Swift Current, and maybe the most difficult days I've ever had in this business. Fast forward to the playoffs, and you're in Swift Current, and you guys had such a great team. Of course, you'd go on to win, but 7 games against the Pats, 7 games against the Warriors, and then all of a sudden it's the Lethbridge Hurricanes in the conference final. How difficult, how exciting, what were the emotions of that series going against the team that you had played for 4.5 years?
I think Green, every time I touch the puck, was kind of explains that entire series to me. But coming into that series, obviously you pre-scout every team coming into, no matter what series it was. But obviously we had a little bit of extra ammo come against Lethbridge, and that was a series that I couldn't lose. That would have haunted me for a long time if we would have lost that series. They were a great team, and I wanted to stick out the run with Lethbridge, and didn't really expect to get traded. And obviously, like you said, it was a tough day for not just myself, but a lot of people around me, and Skins and Eggs and all those guys. So it was definitely a tough day. But coming into that building in playoffs it was definitely a big sense of excitement and determination. Honestly, like I don't know how I would have reacted if we would have lost that series. Granted, you guys had a really good team, and obviously I played against a lot of guys, and had a lot of friends on that team. But once the puck dropped and stuff like that, I knew what had to be done, and friends were meant for after, and all that stuff. And they came at me with everything they could have too. So it was definitely one of those funnier times where being traded for the first time in my career, and playing against guys that I'd grown up with, and had gone for ice cream every day with, and all that stuff. So it was definitely interesting, but it definitely helped me grow as a player.
Talk about the play. Like we've talked about the first year making the playoffs against the Pats and that difficulty, the Game 7 triumph against Red Deer, the Game 7 run against Medicine Hat, the Pats again, and then you guys go 7-7, and then the Lethbridge Hurricanes 6. You guys would go on to win the Ed Chanel Cup with the Broncos beating the Everett Silvertips. You've had success, hand over fist the last few years. Last year winning the Kelly Cup with the Newfoundland. When you think back to every playoff series you've ever played, was that series against Lethbridge maybe the toughest, only because of the mental side of it as well, I imagine?
For sure. I mean, I would look up in the stands in that series when I would touch the puck, and I'd see where my billet was sitting in the corner in the season seats. So, a guy that was a second father to me for 4 years, and maybe he booed me too. I don't know, but um,
You might have. You might have, yeah.
possible. I don't know, but yeah, no, it was definitely a interesting time coming back to play in Lethbridge. And um, I mean, even getting an interview from Kayla, and someone that I'd seen every day at the rink, or seeing you in the hallway, or Ryan, the stick guy for the Hurricanes, stuff like that. So Whitey was one of my best buddies, and he's an amazing trainer and stuff like that. It was definitely tough to walk in the building and not say hi to everyone, not look around, not smile, like I'm normally accustomed to, kind of coming into the building every day. And but it was definitely my coach had let me know even at the time, Manny was a really good coach, and he knew that this is a series that I didn't want to lose. And um, I definitely brought my best foot forward in that series, and that's definitely something that I'm proud of as well.
Yeah, you and Stewie played very well in that series and would go on to win the championship. That relief, what was that like?
Amazing. Coming from, 12 wins in my first year, kind of the roller coaster of a junior career to, knowing what it's like to win and, having that satisfaction at the end was definitely amazing. And we had, a really good group of guys too in Swift that, you could go out for, ice cream with every day and, bring the whole team. And it was definitely a really close and tight knit group. And there's guys that, we still talk in our group chat today of that team. And, hopefully, they're lifelong friends and, life lasting friends. And we have definitely a big, a memory that we can all kind of stay together with. And, it was definitely an exciting time when we got to go to the Mem Cup, knowing that we went 7-7. I think it was six. What have we been 5 or 6 in the last one? But I think it was like a record for how many games you had to play to win a championship. So that was definitely more exciting. Obviously, a little bit more exhausted than normal coming into the Mem Cup, but that feeling of winning was one of the most amazing things, and kind of the first time that I had felt winning in a while, going back to like minor, like midget and stuff like that. So knowing what it's like to win in that big scale in front of a big crowd and stuff like that was crazy for sure.
When you think of the world right now and having the East Coast League season canceled last year, you're a two-time defending champion because you win that year with the Swift Current Broncos, and in your first year with the Newfoundland Growlers, you guys would go on to win the Kelly Cup in the first year of existence. Talk about that experience, that run, and what it's like to play in Newfoundland.
Amazing city. I never would have expected one that I'd be all the way on the other side of Canada, being, I think in Kelowna right now, so it couldn't be farther away from St. John's. But yeah, it's an amazing city. When I first kind of even got into the city and drove down the streets and seeing all the different colored houses and listening to the cab drivers, how they just have the deep accent and different kind of lingo that they have um, is definitely, it was definitely a big shock for me. But my time in Newfoundland was nothing but amazing. A place that I even miss, right now being stuck in quarantine is I wish that I could go back to Newfoundland. It's such an amazing place, and being up and down from Toronto and stuff like that was, always nice to come back to Newfoundland. And it wasn't ever getting sent down is never easy, but coming back to Newfoundland with how good of a team and how great of a organization that we had down there it was always fun to come to the rink, and obviously we had a great team, so it made it a lot easier for sure.
Only a few more questions for you. Three, I guess. The third one is you've been up and down between the AHL and the ECHL. What's the goal for Giorgio Estephan going forward? Is it still to play in the National Hockey League, I imagine?
For sure. I mean, and having that taste and being so close is having gone to an NHL camp for the last maybe 5 or 6 years. Getting that taste and being, as close as you can be is, always gives you that drive even more. And obviously, being a mainstay is kind of the year for the American League is something that I'm kind of working towards right now. But yeah, the excitement to kind of get there one day, and still young, so we'll kind of see what happens in the next few years. Hopefully, we can get to play in this next little bit. We'll see what happens with the whole virus and everything like that. But knowing how close I am and stuff like that, seeing what the guys are like every day, and I have a lot of friends that play in the NHL too. So there's definitely an excitement and something that I want to reach towards one day.
Two more, both surrounding Lethbridge, of course, to kind of put a bow on it. Number one is way back when we first started the Saturday sit down, we had Tyler Wong on, and I know you and Tyler played together for so long, and you're already shaking your head. Yeah. And you guys are such great friends, and I imagine you talk regularly now. He called you out and said you were too serious. What's your rebuttal?
Why do you think we got so far?
that's there's no more answer that you can have for that.
Yeah, I mean, if he's the one that acted like a dummy, someone's got to act serious. So here I am.
I mentioned to him when I talked to him, and I'll mention it to you, but I remember your guys' back and forth on media days. Do you remember when he gave you the full You remember, don't you? The full shaving cream to the face.
Yeah, it burned my eyes. I got it in my eyes. It was one of the tougher days, honestly. My eyes were beet red. And yeah, he was definitely sorry after that, but he's a guy had no remorse, so he came out with full fledged.
Oh, I miss those days so much. I guess the last thing, Giorgio, is when you think back, you know the better part of five and a half years with the Lethbridge Hurricanes and the city of Lethbridge. When you think back, what does the Hurricanes organization, what does the city of Lethbridge mean to Giorgio Estephan?
It was home. I mean, home for a long time. A place that I would stay in the summers. A place that I first started my career. If you were ever talk about my hockey career, it's definitely a big part of my story and my life. And there's a lot of things that happened for me positively and negatively in that city. And having the ability to play there for 4 years with great billets, in a good organization that is now nothing but the upturn is definitely something that I'm more proud of. And having a lot of friends from Lethbridge, and creating those bonds that I had had, and even kind of the family mentality that if I ever think of Lethbridge, that's kind of what I think about. So yeah, it's nothing but positives, and kind of coming back to play against Lethbridge and when I was 20, and with Swift Current was definitely something of more of a an exciting feel, but like more of a kind of all of it kind of coming back around from the beginning. So there's definitely a lot of good memories that I had in Lethbridge, and even playing against Lethbridge. So it was definitely a good conversation when I bring that name up for sure.
We can leave it there. Really appreciate the time, taking your time out of your Kelowna experience, Giorgio. We appreciate this.
Anytime, Fawzi.
There's Giorgio Estefan, the 25th captain in Hurricanes history, on another edition of Saturday Sit Down. We hope you enjoyed it.